It's time now to envision your project idea in one sentence. Let's take all of these wondrous ideas that have been running through your imagination and make a decision. Let's get really clear and concise in describing what it is that you want to learn and create and share through your personal interest project. And this sentence is just a wee little sentence, but it's so important because you're going to take that sentence in step 4 and you're going to flesh it out into a more detailed project description, which is going to become the roadmap for your journey. We're creating a vision now of where you're headed in one sentence. All right. Now, I don't want to say just go make a sentence. I want to support you in this process by teaching you in one of the best ways I know how to do this, and that is by way of example. And I'm not just going to give you 1 or 2 examples. I'm going to give you 10 examples so that by the end of seeing these 10 examples of sentences describing projects, you will have internalized a sense of how these sentences sound, and you'll be ready to craft your own. So I'd like to introduce you now to 10 young people. We have Marcus, Nina, Jonathan, Kendra, Ravi, Alice, Carlos, Jasmine, Benny, and Catherine. And these 10 young people have in common a number of things. First of all, they're all fictional characters. I just made them up for the purposes of illustration here today. And also, let's imagine that these 10 characters have all done personal interest projects. They've all chosen an area of passion. They've all created a question to drive their inquiry. And they've all clarified a vision for where they're going in their project. And they've all made a simple sentence to describe what their vision is. And I want to walk through and share with you what those sentences sound like. So let's take Marcus, for instance. He is passionate about playgrounds. He loves to play. He loves to enjoy different types of play structures. So he asked himself the question, how would I design my perfect playground? That's a fun question. What would your perfect playground look like? And remember, if you see a project idea here that you like, you can always take it and make it your own, okay? Maybe this will be your project. All right, how would I design my perfect playground? Well, what's he gonna do? What is his project gonna look like? Here is his sentence that describes his vision. Marcus says, I will design blueprints, a miniature model, and promotional material for my own version of a perfect playground. So you can see he gets specific and concise in describing what he's going to do. Miniature model, blueprints, ta-da! It's going to be cool. And I'm going to show you examples of what Marcus came up with later in the course. All right, let's check out another example. Here we have Nina, and Nina is passionate about geology. She loves rocks, okay? So here's her question. She asked, how can I teach people about geology in a fun and creative way? All right, well, how's she gonna do that? Let's see. Here's her simple sentence describing what she's gonna do for her project. I will create a fun new board game that challenges people to learn more about different rocks and minerals. She's gonna make a board game. Sounds like a fun way to learn. All right. Let's check out Jonathan's project. He is a funny, comedic guy. He loves laughing. And his question is, what is laughter and why is it so important? He's assuming laughter is important and he wants to know what is it. So how is he going to explore that? Let's find out. Jonathan says, I will research laughter and create an anthology of funny comics to teach people about this great involuntary reaction. He's going to research what laughter is, and then he's not just going to write an essay, he's going to make a comic book that's funny about laughter. Maybe you'll make a comic book or a graphic novel about your area of passion. All right, let's check out another. Here we have Kendra. Kendra is an outgoing person. She loves to talk and listen and be with her friends. Her passion is talking with friends. And her question is this: what could we learn if we listen better to what kids have to say about big questions and world issues? Kendra is saying, what could we learn if we just listen to young people better? So what do you think she's going to do? Let's find out. Kendra says, I will create and host a radio talk show featuring young people discussing their thoughts on big questions and world issues. A radio talk show. Maybe that's an idea you want to follow, or a podcast, or a TV show. You can make a video, blog, vlog, whatever it is that you want to do. And talk with your friends. Anything can be transformed into a meaningful personal interest project. All right. Next we have Ravi, and Ravi is a history buff. He loves looking back into the past and seeing what can be learned there. He's been interested lately in Leonardo da Vinci, that great Renaissance inventor and artist. So here's the question that got his inquiry started. What does it mean to be a Renaissance man like Leonardo da Vinci? He'd heard that term Renaissance man, wanted to explore more. What does that mean in connection with Da Vinci? So here is what Ravi's going to do. He says, I will create a museum in a box to teach people about who Leonardo da Vinci was. Create a museum in a box. Now, what could that be? Well, I'll give you a sneak peek, because as I said, I'm going to be following these projects throughout the course of this course and showing you how they turn out. So let me give you a sneak peek. This is what a museum in a box could look like. Simply a box that's painted to look like a museum, and inside are all kinds of artifacts and illustrations and games and models and things that represent the life of Leonardo da Vinci. And we'll go into more detail about how to create a museum in a box in future steps. All right, next example. Here we have Alice. Alice is passionate about mathematics. She has this question: in what ways do we live in a mathematical world? She's taking as an assumption we live in a mathematical world. There's lots of evidence to prove that, and she wants to show that through her project. So what's she going to do? There are so many ways to interpret that question, and here's what she came up with. I will explore, analyze, and represent the many ways we use math in our everyday lives through creating an interactive photography exhibit. She's going to take some photographs that show math in our everyday lives, blow them up, put them on display, and then invite people to come through her exhibit. It's an interactive exhibit. So she's probably going to stand at a table and answer questions and talk about what she has photographed and the meanings behind it. Maybe have some games or other kinds of ways for people to interact with what she's created. Photography. What's your area of interest? Maybe you can take a series of photographs that meaningfully explain that topic. She's going to be combining mathematics and the arts. Sounds like an interesting project. What ideas can you borrow from that? All right, next we have Carlos, and he loves to read. Maybe like you, maybe you love to read and you've had a lot of books assigned to you in the past. Well, Carlos was assigned the book Lord of the Flies as a part of his high school reading. And he asked, how can I teach people about William Golding's novel Lord of the Flies in a fun and creative way? You know, how many book reports and essays do you find yourself writing about literature? Well, Carlos wants to make his a little bit more eye-popping. He wants to bring it into wild 3D. So he is going to create something that perhaps no one's seen before. A giant pop-up book as an in-depth literature study of William Golding's novel, Lord of the Flies. A giant pop-up book as a literature study. Now, what would that look like? Well, here's a little sneak peek. And in future steps, I'm going to walk you through a little bit of this eye-popping book to show you what this character of Carlos may have done. All right, and that's an actual sample from one of the projects that I did with a group of grade 6 and 7 students. All right, let's look at another example. Here we have Jasmine, and Jasmine is passionate about fashion. And she asked herself this question: how would I design my own line of fashions? How would you design your own line of fashions? What would be important to you? So Jasmine asked herself that question, and upon research and reflection, she came to this sentence: I will design a line of eco-friendly, ethically sourced fashions and create sample garments to showcase in a fashion show that I organize. So she is gonna actually create this portfolio of fashions and make clothing and stage a fashion show with her friends, probably at her school, and put that on display for people to enjoy. So, sounds pretty interesting. And how is she going to do that in an eco-friendly, ethically sourced way? Well, stay tuned, because I'll show you how that project unfolds in future steps. Next, we have Benny, and he is passionate about business. He loves thinking about creating his own company one day, and he got an idea based on a summer job he had mowing lawns. So here's his question. He says, how would I create my own small business in lawn maintenance? Benny doesn't want to just work for someone else. He wants to create his own company and be the CEO of that. So you can imagine where this is going. For his simple sentence about his project, here's what he had to say. I will research how to create my own lawn maintenance company, create a business plan, and pitch my company to prospective investors in a meeting I organize. So have you ever seen that show, Shark Tank, or maybe you've heard it as Dragon's Den, where people who have business ideas come forward to prospective investors and say, here's my idea, would you invest money so that I can go and create this business? So that's what Benny wants to do. He's going to create this idea for a company, make a business plan, and put together this meeting where he says to people, here it is, invest in me, I'm ready to make this real, okay? So maybe you have an idea for a business and you want to do some research and create a business plan and pitch it to prospective investors. Maybe you could end up at the end of this personal interest project as CEO of your own corporation or nonprofit organization or whatever. And lastly, we come to Catherine, who's very interested in the idea of utopia or perfect worlds. She's been reading lots of science fiction novels and thinking philosophically about what an ideal world would be like. And she asked this question that is philosophical and it involves thinking about economics. And here it is. Would the world be better if we redistributed all of the money and assets in the world equally among people? Would our world be better if we gathered up all of the wealth and then redistributed it equally amongst all the people? Would that be a utopia? Would that be a perfect world? Or would it be a dystopia? The total opposite, a horrible world? Well, Catherine wants to explore this concept and see how it would look. And she can't actually gather up all the wealth in the world and redistribute it equally amongst all people, but she can do that in fiction. So here's what she's going to do. She's gonna write and self-publish a short science fiction novel about a future world where all money and assets have been redistributed equally among all people. So she's gonna think about a character and create this futuristic world that they have to navigate, and what other relationships they have, and what problems do they encounter, and she's going to answer that question for herself about how world economies should be run. Very interesting, high-level question that maybe it's one that you're interested in. Any one of these examples that we have gone through, they're yours for the taking. If you're interested in taking these as your visions for your project, or take them and tweak them and make them your own. So there you have it, 10 examples of simple sentences describing a vision for a project. And now is the time for you to create your project idea, to write it up in just one simple sentence. You've seen these 10 examples, you've seen the project catalog with all of those possible ways your project could take shape. Take some time now and make a decision and write that sentence.